My mouse.
Okay, good evening. We are live. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my two special co-hosts, Ms. Deidre Payne, coming to us all the way from Orange County, California, by way of the Honda?
No, it's a Jeep.
By way of the Jeep. We also have all the way from the state of Maine, Mr. Darren Guy. Mr. Guy, how are you this evening?
I'm excellent, Mr. Davis. Thanks for asking.
Good. You know, we were supposed to have a guest from, I think, Alaska tonight.
Oh.
And they were having some technical difficulties, so we don't have a guest tonight. So that leads us to talking about whatever we want, or you guys asking me questions. And that's what we'll do for the balance of the show. You know, the other thing that we can do, if I can just pull it up, if anybody in the audience has questions, you know, they want to pose.
Janae is from Orange County, too. She just said hello.
Ah, I see.
Have you ever been on the show, Janae? You should come on right now.
So any questions that the audience has, go ahead and post them, and I'll try to answer them.
Sorry. Got a little excited.
How's your show going, Miss Deidre Payne?
Well, gee, if I can get a guest to actually follow through.
Oh wait, no. I talked to your this morning's guest. She was all upset that she wasn't. Was it this morning?
No, what?
You had a guest that was supposed to be on or something?
Yeah, I always have a guest that's supposed to be on, and then they never do show up the next morning. But Melissa said she was going to be a good sport and come and be on my show next week.
Yeah, she was. I thought she was waiting for you this morning or whatever.
Well, I guess she messaged the wrong person to get the link. She said Miss G was. I said, I think you messaged the wrong person. It's Grace that's supposed to send you the link. She said, oh, okay. Well, maybe that's why I never got it. So I said next week.
Anyway, back at the ranch.
How many days a week is your show?
Just twice, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
But I give current event stories every time. I gave another good one today.
Ooh.
Oh, today's Thursday. Yeah. Well, what'd you talk about today?
About a recent story that just was posted 18 hours ago, I think it was, out of Florida, even though it was dated back in 2017, but it was about a mother who had committed suicide due to her child being kept in the custody of a hospital because of the child's medical condition.
Okay.
It's that word that I can't pronounce. Munchausen proxy. I don't even know how to say it.
Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah. Something along the lines of that. But it was basically about her daughter having this severe medical problem, and make a long story short, the parents brought her to this hospital in Florida. And even though the parents knew like the remedies to try and treat her daughter as well as specialists, the hospital decided to ignore that and think that they were doing their own thing. And it ended up prolonging her from being in the hospital. And then I kind of forget the part of the story where it said that they wouldn't then DCS in Florida got involved somehow and made 9 false allegations against the mother to then keep the child in the hospital's custody, if I'm remembering that right. And then the mother just became hopeless, and time just kept going on and on and on to where she never thought her daughter was going to be released from the hospital. And she ended up taking her life in 2017. And then 6 days later, they released their daughter back to the father.
That's terrible.
Mignon Diaz writes, is it ever too late for a family member to file a 388 to reconsider placement? The answer, Mignon, is no, it is never too late. Now, whether you're going to win or not, that's a whole different story, depending on the law and your evidence that you have to present to the judge in your 388. Janae says the mom was a nurse too, right? On the Netflix special that you watched, Miss Payne?
That could possibly be true. I believe so. Yeah, it actually ended up becoming a Netflix movie called something about Save Maya. I think it's on Netflix right now. Maybe that's why the story just got brought to surface because of the Netflix. I forgot about that part. See, Janae follows my show. Yay, Janae. I have one supporter.
We have one follower.
She's from Orange County. I mean, local, I guess.
Do you guys know what Munchausen syndrome by proxy is?
No, but didn't we talk about that last night, right?
Yeah. You've talked about it several times.
It is depending on the year you're in, because it moves in and out of the DSM, I guess it's the digest or diagnostic of mental disorder.
Can I give a guess before you say? Or am I talking too much? Okay, I'll be quiet.
Go ahead. I was giving you the floor.
Oh, because I remember a mother that came on and she said that, and then you asked her what she thought it meant, and then she gave such a good response, and you were impressed. So I'm trying to remember, but is it where like a parent is maybe self-diagnosing their child for a potential disease or something like that along the lines?
I wouldn't say self-diagnosing.
Oh, okay.
I think it's making up that the child has certain types of medical conditions too, and that they have to be treated. And generally, under that syndrome, the person making the quote-unquote false conditions is someone in the medical profession.
Okay.
Janae just mentioned that in that documentary. You were mentioning that she thought the mother was a nurse. Do you have any questions for me today, Mr. Guai?
No, not right this second, but I got something I'm going to ask you here in a moment.
Okay.
I'm just looking up my facts here to make sure that they're right before I ask you the question.
Mr. Guai, other than this show, how many shows do you have on the platform?
We got the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We got Men in the Trenches.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Nice.
Yeah, 7:00 at night. We got a good little run going.
Darren, what were you talking about on your show about the conflict story, or what were you saying?
The conflict story?
No, on the CPS Trenches, you and Mike were talking about how you were getting together a bunch of these people and you were going to do like,
we do like, and Melissa said she wanted you involved. On Tuesday nights, I put together a thing that I like to call Meeting of the Minds, and a bunch of people just get together and have a meeting. And, we just kind of gab about what's going on with current events and what's going on with these people's cases and so on.
But that's not on the platform of Mr. Davis. Okay.
Right. But we could make it. We could make it so.
Michelle Gainey says, I'm in the middle of an administrative review with San Diego County CPS. Right. Why do they want to do a Teams meeting with me? ? I thought they would just review the actions of the social worker. Well, they want to do a Teams meeting with you to gather more information to use against you, or to try to settle with you because they know that their social worker screwed up. CPS doesn't do anything unless it benefits them. And I generally tell clients not to do anything with CPS, without the attorney, of course, unless it's definitely going to benefit you. If it's not going to benefit you in a negative way or in a neutral way, there's no benefit to you to go to a Teams meeting. Now, that's just my humble opinion. Do judges ever use that against you? I have heard that sometimes they do. But in my opinion, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, if you go to a Teams meeting on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, it's at least going to be a 5. And if you do go to a Teams meeting, it's probably going to be a 10. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
In the state of Maine, they require those once a month.
For parents?
Yep. We have a family team meeting once a month.
Okay. Is that actually in a state law? I bet it's
not.
No,
what it was under is they were audited by the Government Oversight Committee because they're so terrible here. And these were one of the recommendations. So that actually started with my case when they started implementing the family team meetings once a month. And I know now that that's part of their routines. But yeah, once a month we would have the family team meeting.
Okay. Michelle Gainey says, I sued them in federal court in August. Well, that's why they want to meet with you so they can pick your brain on your federal lawsuit, especially if you don't have a lawyer. Okay.
So I wonder if she has her kids back.
I don't know. Jay the 9118. How do I talk to Vince Davis directly? Okay, Jay,
Right now.
bottom right hand corner. You see that 888-888-6582? That is my telephone number, Jay. You can call it 24/7 and a live person will answer and take a message for you.
Where's my son?
Tell him to come on now.
CPS.
I'm trying to promote all these people.
CPS. Where's Miss G when you need her? CPS.
Hey,
CPS
be nice.
handed my child over to a corporate guardian the day she turned 18 while claiming reunification was the plan, then dropped the case. Okay. Sheila, you surprised? You know, I talk about this a lot, but are you surprised that CPS does things that are a little underhanded, a little maybe what you would consider wrong or a violation of the law? Are you surprised about that? No, you shouldn't be. The only question is, Mr. Kwai, what's the question?
The question is this: why would you even think for a moment that it was anything that you thought it would be?
The real question is, what are you going to do about it?
Well, the real question is you're going to become active in your communities and get on here and be a state's captain. And we're going to start allocating, which real soon, me and Mr. Davis have been working on this stuff to figure out what we want each captain to be focusing on and what we will have them, I guess, broadcast to their, what do you call the people under the captains, Mr. Davis?
Co-captain.
Lieutenants
and soldiers, I guess, right? Lieutenants and soldiers.
Hey, I got to get to this question. Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have to get to this question because Juliana Mera
is a member
of our YouTube channel.
Oh, whoa.
When you're a member, you get priority. Can CFS cancel your visitation with your baby if they can't find anyone to monitor the visit? This is in San Bernardino County. Okay, Juliana, CPS or CFS, as it's called in your county, can do anything they want. The issue becomes, what are you going to do about it? Are you and your attorney going to go to court, bring this to the court's attention? Or you're just going to do nothing? Or are you going to sue them in federal court for civil rights violations? I'm getting some reverb. I don't know if that's Darren's $1 million.
Not me.
Yeah, it is Darren's $1 million system.
Ha! It's you this time,
That's
Darren.
weird.
And I'm in the car.
I wonder where it's coming from. That's strange.
He doesn't even know. He has so many things going.
So, Juliana Mera, I hope that answers your question. If, of course, you need follow-up, go ahead and post it in the comments.
Maybe you can recommend Erin Carranza to her. She offers those services.
What's the S-much name?
Smooch name.
CPS messed up the woman I helped, has won all her kids back and is going to sue as well. But CFS has messed up her kids taken, so now she has to put them back together.
Yep.
What?
That is a very common thing that happens. I talk to people, who aren't even interested in suing, but they get their kids back and they're not the same kids. A lot happens in foster care to these kids that we don't talk about, that nobody wants to acknowledge. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I don't know if I told this story. This week, I got in an Uber to go from my office to the children's court. And when the guy looked at where I was going, the driver, he says to me, "Oh, I haven't been there in years." I'm thinking, you look 25. What do you mean you haven't been there in years? I thought, well, maybe he had a case. So as the trip progressed, he told me that he used to be a foster child from the age of like 2 or 3 all the way through 18.
Oh.
And the story he told me was a little concerning. There was bad and good. He had some great times in foster care, in different foster homes, but he witnessed some horrific things happening to other children. Let me give you an example. He told me that his brother was physically and sexually abused by a foster parent. He said it never
Disgusting.
happened. It never happened to him, but it happened to his brother, and his brother doesn't want to talk about it with anyone, which is not unusual, right? He said his brother wants to put it behind him. Then I asked him what's the worst thing that he ever, witnessed. He told me that as a 10 or 11-year-old, he witnessed a foster child, a female, being raped by a foster parent.
Man,
Almighty.
so disgusting.
And, it just reminded me that, we put kids in foster care because we think they're going to be well taken care of. And that's not necessarily true. It's true in some cases. Yeah, I agree. Some foster parents are great foster parents. But sometimes, there are dangers that we don't consider, and we hope that doesn't happen, but that it does. So he gave me an idea. This is his idea. He says, Mr. Davis, I've met a lot of kids and adults that have been in foster care. And he said, you know what? You should interview them. He said, you should just have a show interviewing prior foster children.
Isn't that hard though, because they're kids, or no?
Well, that's interesting because a lot of them are grown adults now.
I see.
Grown adults, right?
Yeah.
Like this guy, he must have been 25, 26 years old. Anyway, he gave me his telephone number and his name. He said, he'd love to be interviewed and to be on that.
Don't you think that's so ironic how, like, such a small world that's your Uber driver when you're going to the court that he used to be involved with?
I used to think that, but if you ask any person, they will know someone, firsthand knowledge, that has been involved with CPS, either in their family or someone else's family or a coworker. There are a lot of kids nationwide that end up in foster care. I don't know the exact number.
Did he ever say if he ever became back in contact with his biological family or no?
Yes. I asked him about that, and it was interesting. Now, apparently he had several brothers and sisters, and his mother is in a retirement home right now. And he said that he was the only child that visits and has a relationship with his mother. And I asked him why, and you know what he told me? He said they all blame their mother for having gone through the abuse or the experience of foster care. They blame her. And he said that although he wasn't the oldest, he said that he came to realize that the social workers, made it impossible for her to get the kids back.
See?
It wasn't as if she were trying. And here's one of the things that he told me, one of the requirements that his mother never could satisfy. The social workers, she had like 5 kids, something like that. The social workers told her that in order to get the kids back, that she had to have her own home and a bedroom for each of the kids.
What?
I told him that was not the law.
I thought not even to say you have to have a home. I thought that they can't use homelessness against you, right?
They're not supposed to. And, the impression I got, although, I didn't ask him any direct questions about his mom, the impression I got was his mom, wasn't very sophisticated or educated, and she was easily, put down and, taken advantage of. And because he asked me, he says, that's a hard requirement. He said, how do people ever get their children back? And I said, that's not the law.
I wonder if his mom ever did find that out, that wasn't like,
I don't
technically
know. When I told him that, I don't think so, because when I told him that, he kind of, he's driving, and he kind of went like that to look at me like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
So up until that ride, and I don't know if he believed me or not, but up until that ride, he always thought that the social workers could make you have a certain size home in order to get your children back. And that's not true.
That means she would have to have like a 6-bedroom house if she had 5 kids and they all had to have their own bedrooms.
So
That means, so, and you know, from her means and from where she was from what I gathered, you know, that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't in the cards at all.
I don't even think that could happen for like a well-off family. A 6-bedroom house.
So he said they kept making her do things, and she would get distraught and disappointed, and every, you know, couple times a year she would relapse,
Mm.
and she would relapse like right around the court hearings.
Oh,
So it's kind of a pattern. She
yeah.
doesn't get her kids back, she relapses, then she gets back on, doesn't get her kids back, relapses. So his siblings all blame their mother, and they do not have a relationship with her.
And that's so sad.
He said he's the only one. So I'm gonna,
Oh.
you know, he gave me his number and everything, and I'm gonna text him and talk about having him just on a show. You know, many years ago, we had kind of a similar show that was hosted by a young child, not a young child, yeah, maybe 10 or 11-year-old child who was very mature. And she spent her time interviewing previous foster children and comparing them with her experience in foster care.
Hmm.
And it was a very popular show. And we stopped doing it mainly because the parent of the child um, changed her mind for a lot of different reasons about having her daughter on, you know, a show like this. And in fact, it was her idea, you know, that we started a show. But imagine, you know, a 12, 13-year-old kid interviewing other kids who were in foster care. And, you know, if they were still minors, you'd have to have the parents' permission, written permission to
But
do
see,
that.
I think kids sometimes obviously open up easier if it was like one of their peers,
No,
you
I
know?
agree. I agree. And you know, when you heard some of the things that they would say, you would think, I never thought of that.
Exactly.
When your kids are at home, I mean, in most households, you know, they have a quite a bit of freedom. You know, what they're going to watch on television, what they're going to listen to, when they're going to eat, how they're going to eat, what they're going to eat, all that type of stuff. But in foster care, you don't necessarily have that. It's kind of a very strict, regimented kind of thing. You know?
so here's I'm going to throw some numbers at you here, okay?
Okay.
In 2021, about 10% of the children in foster care were sexually abused. That's 28 times higher than the rate of sex abuse in the general population in some states. According to a study of 155 adolescent girls in foster care, 81% had experienced sexual abuse. 68% of the girls reported being sexually abused by more than one individual. In 2019, it was estimated that up to 40% of children in foster care had experienced some type of abuse. And then, according to a child advocacy organization, children who live with foster parents are 10 times more likely to be abused.
Where are you reading from?
This is straight off the top of Google, and they're from, let's see, Sex Abuse, the Orlo Firm, the Annie E. Casey Foundation, Helping Survivors is another one. The Ballard Brief is another one. And Sex Crimes, it's a foster care sex crimes attorney, was that last stat. So, I mean, that's quite a bit. And then there's also this study done by PubMed Central. And this one is about what you guys were just talking about. Check this out. The impact of being placed in care of child protection services on children has been examined extensively. These children have worse health and social outcomes than those of children in general population. Several population-based studies have also identified these children as being at higher risk for suicide and suicide attempts. Less known are the outcomes of mothers whose children are placed in care by CPS. While mothers with mental illness have significantly greater involvement with CPS, women have reported that they develop mental health conditions or their existing mental health conditions worsened after custody loss. Being a mother has been identified as being protective against suicide. However, experiencing the death of a child increases the risk, particularly if the child is young. Parents who lose custody of their children have been shown to experience this situation as a living death. The purpose of this study is to examine whether the mothers who lost custody of their children due to involvement with CPS have higher rates of suicide, so on and so forth. And the outcome shows greatly. 4.8 per 100,000 females that are involved with CPS will commit suicide. That's just crazy, which is far over the national average. I mean, these are, so tell me again how these people are helping.
Yeah, really. They'd be way better off in their biological home setting and just giving these parents services for whatever issue that they might have. I mean, I can understand if they're literally beating their children or that kind of situation, but in all honesty, I feel like even if they take kids out of that situation and they put them in a foster home, I mean, most of the time you hear these kind of stories of what.
Is there a life happens argument that you make, Mr. Davis? Like something along those lines? Like, let's say it's an isolated incident that happens to somebody. Say, for instance, with me, like, let's just say me. I got accused of these crimes I was alleged of these crimes that were dismissed, but it was an isolated incident. There was no criminal record prior to, there was nothing. So an incident occurred. It had nothing to do with a child. It had nothing to do with anything of my child whatsoever. But is there an argument that you reach for that in court where you're like, whoa, guys, you guys are way jumping over here and you're overstepping?
I don't think really that type of argument is made or well accepted. But I will say this: I think 50 years we'll look back on this, and people will wonder what we were doing. I'll give you an example. I've done thousands, me and my law firm, thousands of cases that were drug related. Okay. Such a small percentage of those were, the type of addict that was out in the middle of the street laying in the gutter. I mean, that typically doesn't happen.
Mm-mm.
But I think, I've come to the conclusion, because I had a son that passed away of a drug overdose. And I went to a lot of, counseling, with him and after him. And I honestly believe that drug addiction is a disease.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it has anything to do with character or, self-control. It is a disease. And and a lot of counselors and drug places, they talk about that, as it's a disease. Now, we don't take kids away from parents because they have cancer and they're bedridden. But if you're a functioning addict, meaning you use drugs, illegal drugs, but you go to work every day, you feed the kids every day, you send them to school, but we take away those kids. And I'm not sure why, and I think it's based upon a lack of understanding, and it's based upon a fear that something might happen. The way the law is written is we can take your kids if you're a risk. And if you're using an illegal drug, I guess by definition, you'd be a risk. But that's really not the situation, in my mind. Anyway, I know a lot of people will, they'll be aghast and, they'll disagree with me, and that's fine. I accept that. But, think about what we're doing. And then, what happens is that, you're an addict, a functioning addict, and you lose your kids and your kids lose you. Is that really the best thing for the kids?
And see, a good argument with that, Mr. Davis, is I feel like it has a lot to do with, like you just said, illegal, meaning people every day have prescriptions for narcotics that just because their doctor wrote them a prescription for it and it's legal, then all of a sudden that's okay for that parent to be technically taking that drug on a daily basis. I mean, some people take a drug to go to sleep, take a drug to wake up, but yet just because this parent is taking a drug that's illegal and bought off of the street, Now all of a sudden it's like what you said,
Right.
it's just, where do you draw the line between what all of a sudden is okay and not okay when it comes to parenting?
So
Well, I think that.
what?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that the answer to that comes. You can't. It's going to be generations to come. Because you're not going to change. Listen, you're not going to change anybody's mind about how they feel about heroin and cocaine that are 60 years and above.
I mean,
It's just
marijuana,
not.
though, look at how
It's
that's
not.
changed.
But right, but still, anybody that's 60, 70 years old is still going to consider marijuana as a drug that's disgusting, and they don't want it. Like this is something that's. I think, unfortunately, it's going to be generations. Like Mr. Davis says, I think he's right on the head with that. It's going to be 50 years, because the acceptance of people to think that addiction is actually a disease. I mean, you got a couple generations of baby boomers now that are still going to argue that, they're not going to accept this fact, even though they're the starters of all of this with the painkillers and stuff, so I think you're just going to be that far away unless we do the Davis March on Washington and we start pushing these older politicians out, because it's not going to change until we do that. Even though science and everything else is proving that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the pharmaceutical companies and our government and the doctors are the ones that are.
There's Mike. Not true. I'm 60 years old, partner. There's that sensitive Mike.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the reality of this, and it's an easy target for them to come into your house and get your kid. I mean, the number of people that have some sort of an addiction in this country is ginormous. I mean, it gets them easy access to your home. All they only have to find you having a Percocet or something, and all of a sudden you're an addict and you're going in there, and like these things were handed away only 10 years ago. Like this is the thing, and they don't care. The pot thing in some states, there's still, how many do they still go into, homes and they consider pot the drug and still can come in and take people's children, Mr. Davis? Like,
yeah, marijuana is not legal everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this just goes to show, like there's going to be this fight for this. I mean, the American Disabilities now consider opiate disorder a disease, and they will represent you. As long as you're not an active user and, like you're not using and being a dirty user and such. But if you're in recovery or whatever, they will come to your aid and they will help you. So, I mean, that's something for anybody that's out there that, is seeking some help here. Go to the ADA and, see what they can do for you. It's just unfortunate.
We had some sound effects going. Was that your sound effect there, Miss?
It's the parking lot, the large car lot.
I thought you had a sound effect like Mr.
It's the car lot, yeah. Hey, and that one
No.
was free. That works just fine.
When it gets late, most of the time it's because I'm supposed to be working, but I take time away for your show. Oh, the Saint was very disappointed. He was all excited, thinking he was going to meet you today. He was up at 6:30 saying that we had to be at the court at 8 a.m. to get you. He goes, how court is. They always tell you to be there by, this time. But if we're going to catch him before he goes in, we got to be there at 8.
That is funny.
Disappointed
the Saint, Davis. Disappointed the Saint.
I called in this morning because the case was being closed and the kids were placed with the parents. I had the dad, and another attorney I know, private attorney, had the mom. And he actually was driving from the San Fernando Valley, I think, to the courthouse in Orange County. Well, I called at 8:30, 8:25 and said, hey, do we need to even come in? Because, the recommendation is to close the case. And the way they do it in Orange County is if everyone agrees, you just approve a stipulation via email, and then the case is not even called by the judge. Well, anyway, so at 8:30, I call in, right? At 9:30, he sends an email, stuck on the freeway. Okay, well, my ETA is 10. At 10, he emails again, still stuck on the freeway. My ETA is 10:30.
There was 2 deaths on the 405 this morning. So
Right.
even
Right.
when you said you were going to get there at a certain time, I'm like, I don't know if you're going to get there by that time.
So at 10:30,
Oh no.
you know, I'm in a parking lot on the freeway. He must have been on the 405.
Yeah.
And then he says 11 is my arrival time. And by that time, I guess, I don't know, the judge wanted to get this case done and off the books. So they were doing it by submission, and they told him, hey, just look at your email and tell us if you agree with the case being closed. So at about 11:15, he's still not at the courthouse, and he approves it, right? And he never made it to court. So it's a good thing. I decided, to try not to have to go, because
I mean, why was he trying to be there in person when you got permission to appear via phone? Why didn't he just
he
didn't
didn't
say?
know. He didn't know that I was going to be able to get permission until 8:30.
Oh.
And
Oh.
since he was coming from the San Fernando Valley and I
Uh-huh.
was a little bit closer, I could
Uh-huh.
leave earlier.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So he left really early, and he never made it to court.
Oh, Lordy.
Anyway, so I look forward to meeting the saint at another time. The saint should consider having a show on this platform.
That's what I told him. I said, go on the show with Mike and Darren. He goes, oh, no, I'm not doing that. But then whenever you mention him, he gets real excited in the background. Whenever you mention him, he's like, oh, there he goes talking about me. I'm like, well, then show your face. Nope, you won't. And then I told him you made a comment about we should take photos for the platform or whatever, or for social media. He's like, I'm not taking any picture. I said, who said he wanted to take your picture?
I was going to use it as a photo opportunity, Mr. Guay.
Yeah,
next thing you know, he was at the barber too this morning, thinking that you were still going to tell him that we were going to meet. 9:00. 9:00. He's called his barber. Can you have time for me? He goes, yeah, 9:20. He goes, I'm going 9:20. I'm out.
He was going to get a little trim up, huh?
The lineup and whatever. I said, yeah, I sure didn't want to be in those pictures, huh? Oh man.
Well, we don't have a guest tonight, and looks like you guys have run out of questions.
Wait, I do have a question about adoption. I think you've already answered it. There's no way for me to find out when the adoption of my youngest is final, huh?
There's not supposed to be. Sometimes people find out accidentally. But
how could I accidentally find out?
Call the clerk of the court.
Oh, and they just might accidentally tell me if I ask him?
Mm-hmm. Or the clerk at the whole courthouse.
But there's no other way to find out?
A social worker.
You can't hire a private investigator to find out that kind of stuff?
Oh, they might be. I've met some incredible private investigators over the years.
They don't have to put that in the newspaper or anything once that happens?
No, because
the rules?
The rights have been terminated. There's nobody to notice. The parents' rights have been terminated, and the family's rights have been terminated.
Because does the jurisdiction changes, right? From the adoption, from the termination to the adoption. Does it go to a different court or different?
Generally, in a lot of cases, they do it in a lot of counties. I think I noticed in LA they stopped having adoption courts and they let each individual court do the adoption. But it's just something they change every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I asked you this part too, but since they've already let it be known to us that they're going to change his last name on the birth certificate, will he get a new Social Security?
I don't know how that works. Probably, but I don't know because that social is tied to a specific name.
Yeah.
Right? If he changes his name or they change his name, presumably he'll get a new
social.
Yeah. What is Charlene Strang saying? We just got our 42 USC 19A granted to proceed in proper. Okay, great. What state are you in, Charlene? Charlene, I just want to warn you, you have started a long, long journey. So.
Does that mean she's going like to represent herself?
Yes. Pro per means I'm going to represent myself.
Which Mr. Davis says, no, no, no.
Well, you know what, Charlene, what I want you to do is I want you to come back every month and tell us how it's going in a pro per civil rights case. Maybe maybe at the 6-month date and a 12-month date or 10-month date, you can come on and you can tell people the pros and cons of representing yourself in a civil rights case.
Have you ever heard of a case that won with them representing themselves?
No.
Never. Oh, that should tell you, Charlene.
That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Maybe 1 out of 1,000. Look, they're so hard. They're so difficult and so much work that I had a private attorney who I know who's been doing dependency and CPS law for years. She called me up today. I hadn't talked to her in a long time, maybe even prior to COVID. And she called me up and she said, Vince, I have this great civil rights case. I'm swamped. They're papering me to death. I want you to join the team. And I told her to send me over some documents. I'd look at it and see what's going on, in the case. But now she's a very experienced attorney and she's asking for help. Right. And I had a feeling, although she never said it, I'm not the first person she called. Right. She probably called, other attorneys and they said no. Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of, people don't understand. It's expensive, the cost and fees. And then it's a lot of work on top of that. It's not like an automobile accident, right? Where you just file a lawsuit and they settle with you. It's not like that.
So they don't change it automatically for you, but you have the option to get a new social security number for the child.
So technically he could keep his existing social even though they were to change his last name?
Yep, I guess so.
I'm
sure. Well, I mean, it's no different than getting married, right? You fill out an SS5 is the thing for that. But I mean, you get married, you don't get a new social security number. They just put a name change on it.
I don't know. I'm not a social security guru. There are attorneys that do specialize in social security law.
Mm-hmm.
Charlene says it's intense.
No.
Well, she's the one doing it.
Charlene, you have no idea. No idea. The new family cannot change the SSN. That's what Susan says.
Well, Susan should look up at the Social Security Administration website, and it will tell her differently. It's called an SS5 form, and you will fill that out, and they'll take care of it for you.
Maybe she missed the part of the fact that the new family is adopting, meaning.
Okay, look, we're not Social Security experts, like Mr. Davis says. I just read the facts off the.
No, I'm on your side, Darren. I'm on your side.
I'm reading the comments coming across the bottom. Not you, teacher. I was just trying to get some answers to what she was asking. That's all.
I tried when my kids were adopted. What? I don't know.
That's just what the Social Security site said.
Last question, Mr. Davis. Since we don't have a guest, I think you mentioned this once before to me as well, but I just wanted to ask you again. Didn't you say hypothetically, I'm trying to pose it to where I don't put my foot in my mouth like I did last time. If a biological mother is technically seeing their children with no supervision, even though they technically, I guess, are supposed to, isn't that kind of grounds for like saying that they're okay to have their kids back, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Am I asking that correctly?
Yes. If you can prove it and the judge believes you, yeah.
Like that's a strong enough, like scenario to
Well, I
say
don't know
that.
if it's strong enough. It depends on the type of evidence you have. Like, do you have videos when they come over and visit?
Oh, yeah.
You take pictures when they come over and
Oh,
visit?
yeah.
How old are the kids? Can they verify that they're with mommy on the weekend? You know,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. So, you got to have the evidence.
Remember that trick question at the end part was, what if it flips on that guardian and then they take the kids from that guardian because they weren't technically following the supervised quote unquote visits? Or is it just up to the legal guardian no matter what?
That's an interesting question. Because under guardianship law, in my opinion, in California anyway, the guardian has the power to modify visitation. But I have seen cases in juvenile court where they've taken the kids from the guardian because when she modified, let me mute Darren, when she modified the visitation,
Mm-hmm.
they said that she was endangering the children, so they took the kids away from the guardian. So
Because see, the way that I was understanding the kind of the visitation per se on the exit order was, the exit order gave the biological parents minimum of so many hours a week supervised, meaning then if the guardian is giving way more and unsupervised, then I would think, like you said, that's because the guardian is, like you said, modifying it and there's no danger involved, then it should be okay, right? In that matter? I guess I'm talking too much hypothetical.
It depends on what kind of evidence you have.
Plenty.
Let me revisit that. Depending on what type of admissible evidence you have.
Documentation every day with time stamped everything, photos, videos, you name it.
See, one of the benefits of being a host on the show is you can ask me questions anytime about your case.
Not my case. No, not me. It's that neighbor down the street. I don't want to talk about somebody, but somebody is very guilty of that, or I don't know where that person went.
Mr. Guire, we're going to wrap up the show.
Back on the ranch, he says.
Anything that you want to add or say or question me about?
What's your favorite food?
Italian.
Oh, you mean in terms of
like eating?
What did you think he meant?
Well, no. I mean, did he mean like steak or pasta or pizza or Italian
Just
or Chinese?
It's your last
like if
meal.
you were a kid and said, "What is your favorite food?" 1, 2, 3, go.
A good steak.
Delmonico, filet,
ribeye,
porterhouse,
bone-in ribeye. Bone-in.
Oh,
so when you come up here to Maine, I'll take you to a place we'll go have a good surf and turf.
Okay.
What'd you say, Panama Jacks, or what did you call that place that you were going to take him?
The dump?
No, the Paul. What did you say?
Oh no, they have a Paul Bunyan statue right in the middle of town.
Oh,
There's a casino right there. That's the hot spot. That's probably where you want to stay.
Have you ever been to the famous what's the famous prime rib place in Beverly Hills? Laurie's. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, I've been there.
Where they come out with the little cart and everything. And how do you like your steak cooked? Put it that way.
How do I like my steak cooked? Medium rare.
Yes. Good job. I worked in the restaurant industry for many, many years, and if somebody came in and ordered a filet mignon well done, I'd look at them and say, "Oh my gosh, it's not carne asada. What are you doing?"
Here's Deidre. I like it medium rare but charred.
So okay, yeah, that's good.
I like.
See, the saint eats it all backwards. He's like a medium well, almost well. I'm like, no, you just ruined that nice piece of meat.
Hey, never mind. We'll leave that one for tomorrow.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Well, that'll need more time.
Then I was gonna say you have to talk about what wine you would pair with it. You like wine, Mr. Davis?
No.
Not at all. Like a good glass of Cabernet with your
I had a bad
ribeye.
experience. I had a bad experience with alcohol when I was about like 11 or 12.
Oh no, the liquor cabinet got to you, huh?
No, I was on a trip with a bunch of kids, and somehow it was for a tennis tournament, and somehow beer, malt liquor, and wine, Boone's Farm,
Oh,
Woo, boy.
that's not wine, Mr. Davis.
and I hadn't really drank alcohol before this time, and I was
You were
drinking
10.
it. I was drinking the Boone's Farm, and I was thinking, God, this is really good. It's
Ooh,
sweet.
yuck.
Mhm.
Ooh, headache.
At the but when you're 11 or 12, you don't know any of that. And
Mhm.
I was trying to impress the cute teenage girls that were there, and I spent the entire night on the floor in the hotel bathroom.
You know what you
throwing-
probably did? You probably didn't listen to the old saying. Beer before liquor, you've never been sicker. Liquor before beer, you're in the clear. So you probably did it backwards, and then that was it for you.
At 11 or 12 years old, I don't.
Yeah, I
You're
don't think
right.
that
I
mattered. I
never
think
heard of
just
that.
the consumption, the pure consumption of it.
But that ruined it seriously for you for the rest of your life?
Because let me tell you what happened.
Uh-oh.
I was so sick that I thought I was going to die. And I prayed to God. I told God that if you get me through this, I'll never drink again.
Oh, shoot.
My lips didn't touch alcohol again until I was about 35, 36 years old.
Wow. You were that sick.
Yeah, I can't eat cinnamon.
Well, when I got into college,
What, from Fireball or whatever it is?
when I got into college, I realized there's something called alcohol poisoning
Yeah.
that you can actually die of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you probably were right there.
Obviously, I had alcohol poisoning.
But with booze, I don't know about alcohol poisoning with
Well, there's
booze.
the 11 factor.
That morning, during the evening, people were coming in to go to the bathroom. And I, of course, was laying really close to the toilet.
So
And when
cool.
they were urinating, it would like splash on me.
Ew, Mr. Davis.
So,
Now you just sealed the story.
but it gets worse.
You
It
had
gets worse.
poisoning.
It gets worse. So the next day, I have to get up to go play in this tennis tournament, and there's no way that
Oh, no.
I couldn't even move. They pick me up and they roll me into the shower, and they turn on the cold shower. Right. I finally make it to the bus, but I'm totally out of it. And I may have been like the third best player, on our team.
Oh, no.
We get to the tournament, and I'm in the singles match, and I couldn't even swing the racket. Do you understand? I couldn't swing the racket.
Oh, wow.
So you ask me, oh, your lips really didn't touch alcohol until you were 35? Yeah, that's what happened. And the only reason why I took a drink at about 35 was because I was the best man at a friend's wedding, and they were toasting
Toasting.
with
Not with champagne.
Yeah.
Oh, then that's the worst.
So yeah,
Oh, no.
but
No, but if you ever decide to open up your horizons, I used to work for Robert Manavi and the Vineyard Room when Disney California Adventure theme park first opened way back when in 2001, and we offered 3 and 4 course meals with wine pairing, and the knowledge that I learned with not only pairing different foods with a different wine, but it really can make the whole taste and everything with food that much more enjoyable. And it's not like sitting there saying I'm going to get drunk or that kind of stuff. It's more or less really appreciating everything it entails about wine and the different regions and the grapes and the fermentation. I mean, there's a whole, obviously process to it, but it's really kind of cool to open up that world of food and wine to pair and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sure Darren is a good wine pairer.
I was actually a chef for quite a few years.
Were you really?
See, so he knows what I'm talking about then.
I had 5 different restaurants. I had all through New England. Yep.
See, he knows then.
So I know a little bit about. I'm a Shiraz type guy. I like it warm.
Oh, that's too dry for me.
I love me some Shiraz. So
It's really interesting learning about people in their background.
you would
I
be
would have
quite
never
surprised.
guessed you being
You would be quite
chef.
surprised if you know, like there was another lifetime before I
I
went.
never knew you were an English major neither. You slid that in yesterday on your show.
Yep.
Did you know that, Mr. Davis?
I did not.
I can talk me
See?
some good English. Yeah.
That's why I remember his speech that he
I have a
has
degree
read.
in film production and with a minor of English.
Okay,
We're going way over time, you're going to say, or something.
here's a last trivia question. Which of you, for a bonus point, knows what my major was?
You had your major?
Have you mentioned it before?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. It was not CPS law. It was a different law, right? Branch of law?
Well, I'm talking about my major in undergraduate.
Oh, I don't know. Social work.
I feel like it was a musician or something, right? Wasn't it something like that?
I was an accountant.
History.
Accountant.
Oh, yes. You did mention that. Yes, you did mention that.
Close. You were really close.
Because I went to law school to be a tax lawyer.
Yes. See, I knew you mentioned it before. Because I know the story about when you walked in and that one lawyer basically told you, do you know that they're taking kids away from families? And you're like, no, they're not. Right. Yes, they are.
You know, when he told me that, I was completely, I didn't believe it. I said, look, you're full of it.
You're full of it. Yeah.
Come on. What are you talking about?
Look at what Double O
And then
said.
didn't your wife at the time also then join you? And you both went into dependency law?
She's now a judge in LA County, and she does CPS cases. That's what she does.
Because she didn't believe it either until you told her, right?
I don't know what her belief system was about it, but yeah, we both started doing it at the same time. We were both.
Have you ever had her be a judge on one of your cases?
It would be illegal.
Oh, even though you're not married anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Anytime a case gets assigned or I come on a case that's in her courtroom, she immediately sends it out, to another judge or to the presiding judge who assigns it to another judge. And no presiding judge has ever told you, no, don't do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I see. When are you going to be a judge, Mr. Davis?
Never.
Boy, Mike's really trying hard. It's killing him that we haven't acknowledged any of his messages going by.
I did earlier. Yes, I did acknowledge him.
But this has been like he's been just like pumping the message. He's sitting there just going nuts.
Oh, Mr. Davis, you had me rolling yesterday when you said something about the fact that we should make this a dating something or another. I was literally laughing out loud. You said something along the lines where we should kind of branch off and have this be like what did you say? Dating something or another?
I don't think I said that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Because Mike is always trying to recruit. Oh, shoot. Oh, man. He almost can't help himself, Mike. Crack me up.
They have specialty dating sites, right, that are out there on the internet,
He'll end up with another millennial.
Races or culture or age or senior, whatever, right? Imagine a dating site for CPS parents.
Oh, man.
Rule number 5 of Davis rules: don't get involved with other people while you're in a case.
And Mike's picture would be the background of it
all the time. Yep.
Oh, Mike, he's laughing. He is.
Or crying.
So when's your show, Darren? MIT
tomorrow, 7:00.
4 o'clock our time. 4 o'clock our time.
4 o'clock.
So when everybody's going home in traffic, right? They should put it on their devices, because Mr. Davis has us on his empire of platforms. So everybody's got to have some kind of a platform they can listen to us. Yeah, check it out, Men in Trenches.
Men in Trenches.
It's quite comical.
Hey, you know what? I bought a book
Oh,
digital
what's the
book.
book, real quick, Mr. Davis, that you said you were going to mail me? Because I couldn't think of the name to tell Darren today.
I'm going to I bought a digital version of it.
Yeah, but what was it called?
I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to just send it to you.
You told me earlier today. I can't look at my text
You should have
messages,
remembered.
though.
I knew you wouldn't remember, so.
Shut up. It's something about how to make influence or follow influencers or something along the line.
By the way, text me after the show. Text me your email address so I can send this to you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, folks, we're over time. Go ahead.
Do it. Ask Grace because it's from
Oh,
StreamYard. So
Lordy.
it's all set.
Wait, hold on. The reason why I don't
It's already it's whatever she said, copyright clear.
Yep, it's from StreamYard.
It is? Okay.
Yep.
Grace, pump up the music.
Pump up the music. Oh, she was right on that.
Yeah, that was great. All right, Mr. Davis. Have a good night.
All right. Good night, all. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
See you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific.